Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
On this week's episode of the Kindness Project, we talk about big movies, Grateful, and we have part one of our interview with George Kinder from the Kinder Institute.
Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Project. I am joined by a girl who cannot pronounce the names correctly of movies, and it has to start with big. And a man who
Why are you looking at my bald head again? Do not mention my bald head.
almost looks like an egg. And Russell.
A girl, I'm joined by a girl who is so desperate to annoy her sister. It's so exciting. I'm really... Look at Charlotte's face, Russ. Look, she's not looking forward to this at all.
I'm loving this work.
Well, you know what I'm loving? I'm loving the fact that this relationship is like me 40 years ago, and me and you 40 years ago.
Isn't it?
Well, probably not 40 years ago, because I was 5.
Well, there's a
and you
bit
were 12.
more of an age difference, but
Bit more of an age difference.
What, between me and Sam?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But Russell used to annoy me like Soph's annoying you. So it feels like the circle of life, right? Doesn't it?
it does, doesn't it?
It feels like the circle of life. So, would you like, Sophie, to tell the story of...
You forget the name of one movie and all of a sudden you become a social pariah.
Well, you're not a social pariah. We just think it's quite a fun story. Would you like to tell the story that you're desperate to tell on the podcast? Off you go.
Yesterday, we were playing charades, and Charlotte...
Put me on the spot. This is
Right. Okay.
this is workplace bullying.
So,
Charlotte said...
oh right. Let me tell bits of the story, and then you can come in.
said, you know, the movie with the whale. She was like,
Right.
and I was like, Free Willy. And Charlotte was like, no, Big Willy.
So Charlotte stood up, did her charade, and for some reason did the charade to describe a movie, Russ, called Big Willy. And I said, what movie is Big Willy? I've never heard of it. I've never heard of a movie called
Hold
Big
on, I'm sure there's a movie out there called Big Willy.
We're not Googling it. We're not Googling it. We're not even thinking about it. Do not Google Big Willy.
It was a big whale.
But Charlotte went, no, there is a movie called Big Willy, because there's that one about the whale who jumped over and went out to sea. And then I went, you mean Free Willy?
It's awkward when that happens, isn't it?
So, unofficial question of the podcast: what movies would be better just replacing the word with big? Number one. And official question of the podcast, and this is quite a serious one, so it
Offsets the tone.
Oh yeah, it gives us a bit of an offset of tone. What are you most grateful for? Because Russ, the reason I'm going to talk about that this week is because we've had some amazing podcasts. You know, if anybody doesn't know on the Kindness Project, we interview people quite a good distance in advance, so that we've got plenty of interviews in the bag. But we have had some amazing guests this week, I think. Don't you, Russ?
Yeah, I totally agree.
And a lot of the conversations that came up were about quite a lot about self-determination and sort of taking your own life in your own hands, which has been quite important. Yeah. A lot about being kind to yourself and knowing that you can make mistakes. That sort of stuff was really important. But a lot about habits that help you and serve your own mental health. And the one that comes up quite a lot is gratitude. So and Sophie's just gone back to her art now. Now she's told that story, she's made up. Are you all right, Soph? Yeah, she's done. She's done. Embarrassed her sister, wandered off. So two questions. One official. What are you most grateful for? And number two, think of a movie that just you can replace the word, whatever word you want, with big. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I was thinking of a film. What are those films with they try and rob places and it's got the numbers all the time?
Ocean's 11.
Ocean's Big.
Ocean's big. Oceans are big. I mean, factually, it's correct. Ocean. It sounds like you're a caveman describing an ocean. Ocean's big. Ocean's big. And what are you most grateful for?
Oh, you put me on the spot again.
All right, come on, Russ. What's your
Big Willie incident?
I'm grateful for the fact that I got my charade wrong. What are you grateful for, Russ?
I'm most grateful that I spent my Sunday here with you.
Oh, cheers,
and
mate.
It's just, yeah. And the words escape me throughout grey years.
Is he being sarcastic?
I am.
He's taking the mick out of us.
Is he bit? I mean, I am grateful for this, Russ, genuinely. And you've just insulted me, the fact that you're being sarcastic about it.
It was great, Russ. I loved it.
I'm quite grateful for the opportunities I've been afforded. I'm grateful that I'm doing well. Yeah.
Good. And then movie with you replacing Big in the title.
No.
Do you want to come back to that one?
Yeah.
Let's ask Charlotte what she's grateful for.
Just looking at the movies.
She's now
so
thinking
many
about loads of
Reservoir
movies.
Big.
Reservoir Big. Big fiction.
The big games.
No, the big games as opposed to the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
No, these are as good as Big Willie, though, aren't they? That's
Big
the thing.
Avengers.
It's Tracy.
Or, sorry, was that Dick Tracy you were replacing?
Yeah.
Dick Big.
Keep it clean. I can't get this past the iTunes.
I mean, it's like. Oh God! Oh, this is the furthest we've ever been, I think. So getting ourselves banned. Oh, she's thinking.
I'm trying to think of movies that I've seen now.
Right. Right. While
Big Wars. No.
Big Wars.
Infinity Big. No.
No, not working. We'll come to it.
Captain America, the Big Avenger.
Well, unofficial question of the podcast, ladies and gents, is what movie would you insert the word big into to make it funny? That's part one. And then part two, and we might just ask that as a bit of an unofficial job for us. Part two is what are you most grateful for? And you can get in touch in the following ways.
So if you're on Twitter, it's @OlaKindness. If you're on Facebook, just type the Kindness Project into the search bar and it should come up. If you're in Google, type the Kindness Project podcast into the search bar and it should come up. If you want to go directly to the website, it's www.thekindnessproject.co.uk. If you want to email us directly, it's ola@kindnessproject.co.uk. If you want to find us on Instagram, MySpace,
Friends reunited in here, then done.
Yeah, Ask Jeeves will have a bit of an hard time. So, just use the more convenient methods, I think, is the way to go with it.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so that both of you have actually answered, what are you grateful for?
Oh, I wasn't thinking about it.
She's struggling, Russ. She's struggling.
There's so much.
If there's so much, just give us your top three, or five, or none.
I'm so sorry. I don't know how my brain is. I've lost it.
Clearly, you're grateful for Big Willies.
I'm really not, Russ.
She's got Big Willie on the brain.
I'm really not grateful for Big Willie Russ.
Reminds me of that train we took.
Train. What train? What train? Cassie. What train?
The train from me and Daddy last time I was down. And you accosted that woman.
What do you mean I accosted that woman? What do you mean I accosted that woman? I've never accosted a woman in my life. No, right, no. You were making inappropriate comments, Russ.
That wasn't
And
true.
she looked embarrassed. And I had to apologise.
You were the one making inappropriate comments.
No, Russell shout. What did Russell shout on the train? What did Russell shout on the train?
Something we're not going to share on the podcast.
No, I know. It's inappropriate, Russ, isn't it? And I looked at her. She'd gone purple because she was so embarrassed. And I had to say, I'm really sorry about it. I mean, that's
And then
how
you dragged her in and kept her in the conversation.
she wanted to get involved. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't accost anybody, podcast listeners. I had to apologise to my brother's, frankly, shocking behaviour. And yeah, that was it. But we are coming back. This is your mission while I read out the first piece of kindness news.
Kindness news.
Thank you. We are coming back to what you're grateful for. And what I want is one piece of, one thing you're grateful for after every element of the show as we come up. So think about your first one while I read out this one. Man praised for kind gesture to delivery driver after order ends up 1,000 miles away. A man has been hailed a hero online after a mix-up with his fast food order meant it ended up over 1,000 miles from his home, but he showed nothing but kindness to the delivery driver. After moving 1,000 miles from his home, a fast food fan forgot to update his delivery address on an app. So when Shahid Davis went to order a takeaway of a plant-based taco and burrito boat from the chain Chipotle for lunch last week, his food didn't end up where he'd hoped. Instead of being delivered to his front door in Hagerstown, Maryland, the order was 1,000 miles away in Des Moines, Iowa. The 29-year-old realised the mix-up as he tracked his food and began to feel guilty that he'd wasted the delivery driver's time. Unprepared to make the 15-hour journey to get his lunch, Shahid came up with a better plan. The kind-hearted truck driver got in touch with the delivery driver and offered him his meal to enjoy instead. Love that. The driver thanked him and poignantly revealed that his brother had died, but that it would have been his birthday that day, and due to his kindness, he was going to have lunch where he'd lay to rest because of you. So sad. Shahid said, on Sunday, I just wanted Chipotle for lunch, so I got on the app and I ordered food. Once the app told me it was getting delivered, I waited a couple of minutes. I was getting hungry and looked on the app to see how far he is, so I didn't miss him. But when I looked, it showed me that he was in Iowa. I thought, oh man, I forgot the last time I used my Chipotle app was out there. Seeing he was going to the wrong address, I messaged the support team on the Chipotle app, see what I could do about it. They said once the order is placed, there's nothing I can do about it. So I just told the guy, hey, you have my lunch, because it's no big deal. He took time out of his day to take my order and go all the way to the delivery place. So I felt bad because I felt I wasted his time. He said thank you, and Shahid shared the text exchange on Facebook where it went viral. And, you know, yes, the delivery driver was super happy because, number one, he was given a lunch on a day that meant most to him. Now, you've had quite a long time now, Charlotte, while I was reading out that story, to think about gratitude and what you're grateful for. So what are you grateful for?
I am grateful for you guys, I guess.
You guys, I guess. What a ringing endorsement of family. Russ, what a ringing endorsement. And when you say you guys, are you talking about me and Russ, or are you talking about family in general?
Family in general.
Family in general.
Yeah.
You guys, I guess. Family in general, I guess. Right. Next one while I read out the next bit of news. I'd like delivered with a little bit more certainty. Just a tiny bit. Not I guess, I know, right? So let's try that again. The next piece of news is, I like this story, Russ. I really like this story. Charlotte, I love this story. People are booking so many Airbnbs in Ukraine, they raised 2 million for hosts in need and never even check in. From March the 2nd to March the 3rd, people from around the world booked 61,000 nights in Ukrainian cities via Airbnb, likely not ever to check in or reschedule. It's part of a creative social media campaign to channel funds into besieged cities where something like aid drops or supply trucks can't reach. And it's seen £1.9 million raised for Ukrainians in those 48 hours. I am seeing, we might have to do a special Russ in a couple of weeks talking about. I don't know about you, but there is so much at the moment about the war in Ukraine, Russia invading Ukraine, that makes me sad and makes me look at the world through a lens of just confusion, because why would anybody ever do this? And I know that Putin's potentially killing civilians and doing some really, really inhumane stuff that I just, it's confusing to me why, just grabbing a bit of land would, why anybody would choose to do that. But that's the strong man, sort of totalitarian leader for you, isn't it? I suppose that all totalitarian leaders act in that way. So there is a lot of tragedy at the minute on the situation in Ukraine, and my heart goes out for the people who have got to live in a war-torn country.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the things that I'm grateful for, and I've spoken about this a few times over the past couple of weeks, just imagine living in a country where one day, because of the actions of somebody who frankly shouldn't be in power and control because he hasn't got the temperament to do it, you've got to leave your home and everything you've built for X amount of years. Now, there's a lot that you could arguably say that's wrong with the UK. There's a lot that's right, but there's a lot that's wrong with the UK. But one thing we can probably be pretty comfortable with is that we'd never have to do that. We'd never have to pick up our life and just take it somewhere else. So I'm grateful for that.
For all the wrongs that the UK has, you're right. We'd never feel that fear that they must be feeling now.
Yeah.
The tanks are firing on
hospital,
residential buildings, nuclear power plants. It just defies belief.
I know. So I mean, but the interesting thing is what I've seen on social media and people I know, and is that the kindness shown to the people of Ukraine at the minute is massive. The amount of people who are giving money, giving time, getting in a truck, taking a bunch of goods to the border, all of that sort of stuff. I think what this does show is genuinely, even though there's elements of insanity in terms of the leaders that, sort of like take tanks into sovereign countries, there's also a lot of kindness shown to the people who are there. And this Airbnb story is certainly one of them. In the Ukrainian capital of Kiev, Volodymyr Bondarenko had 10 people book into his room in a single day. This was surprising. It was very supportive at the moment. 36-year-old Bondarenko told CNN on Friday, "I told many of my relatives and friends that I plan to use the money to help our people." So the money's going into Airbnb owners in Kiev, and they, again, using that cash directly on the ground to support people. Airbnb has said it's offering temporary housing in neighbouring countries to up to 100,000 Ukrainians who are fleeing. It's also waiving all of their fees in the country to support individuals donated. So Airbnb have supported this. The guy, the head of Airbnb, was on his Twitter account saying, look, we're going to do everything we can to support the community. We are so humbled by the inspiring generosity of our community during this moment of crisis, said Hayden Thorne, a company spokesman. He asked those willing to help by hosting Ukrainians or donating to their efforts to visit Airbnb's website to find additional ways to support or information. One way anyone can help is by opening their home to Ukrainian refugees as an Airbnb host, for which the company will cover you with air cover, a $1 million hosting insurance policy. Airbnb also partners with non-profits and charities to help contribute to the getter's basic needs. The hospitality service isn't the only community-based service that is helping out. Etsy has decided to cancel their current balances owed to Etsy by all sellers in Ukraine, which is effectively about £4 million. So they've written off £4 million to support people. And I absolutely love that. What we'd love to do on the Kindness Project is share what you're doing to support people in Ukraine. So if you've got a particularly novel idea that you're using to support people, please do let us know. We'd love to share it on the podcast. And all of our love and hope goes out to all of the people in Ukraine at the minute. So that was story 2.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start the interview in a minute. What was you grateful for, Charlotte?
Oh, this is torture.
Yeah, go on.
What else am I grateful for?
So the first one, listeners, just in case you don't remember, was you guys' family, I guess. This one is
my friends.
Friends.
Yeah. When I first set up my laptop, it was my college timetable as my wallpaper, and now I had a games night a little while ago, and it's just a picture of all of us from games night.
Love it.
And, yeah.
Family and friends.
Do you notice how much more passionate about French he is?
That's true, Russ. Like family, I guess, definitely friends. Definitely friends. And on that note, I want to introduce the interview this week. We've got the amazing Mr. George Kinder on the podcast. I love doing this interview. We did it earlier this week, actually. George is a really insightful guy, a guy who is a financial advisor, used to be a financial advisor, but really founded life planning in a really, really fundamental way. And life planning is about effectively aligning what you want to achieve with your life with your other goals, including financial. But it's more than that. He talks about what we can potentially do as communities, as a civilization, just to live happier, better, more inspiring lives, really. And he's quite an inspiring guy, Rush. You quite enjoyed the interview, didn't you?
I did, very much so.
Good stuff. So let's listen to part 1 of that. George, thank you so much for joining us on the Kindness Project. We really appreciate it. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Great to be here. I envy your time in London, because that's where we long to be. And as a family, we're coming over in a few months. Can't wait.
Amazing. What is it about London you love?
Well, I love the culture, but my family, my wife is an actress, and she's founded a theater company in the Boston area, and has used acting skills to train people as a consultant all over the world. So we're, and my 2 kids are both thespians, and so we're into theater, but we're also into music. We love the culture of London. We love the history.
There's always, I think Tired of London, Tired of Life is so true. There's
Absolutely.
always stuff happening
Yeah.
around there. And
Yeah.
you know what's funny? And we've done this a couple of times, haven't we? One of my favourite things to do in London is going to the Globe Theatre by the Zales Bank.
Yeah.
And I never ever buy the posh seats, right? I always want to stand where the action is and where the
Absolutely.
actors are coming in and out. It's amazing.
yeah,
It's amazing,
yeah.
isn't it? Great.
We went. I think we were watching Macbeth. I think it
Yeah,
was,
sure.
and so we were starting to make our way out during the performance. I can't remember why we were leaving, but one of the actors who was playing Macbeth had come round on the outside,
Oh yeah.
and I think Mum got shouted at one
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, we got in the way of the actors, which is a place where you want to be.
That's so cool.
Yeah, no, it's
wonderful.
it's really good fun. So we finished the intro to the conversation with you telling us about how you met your wife, sort of via the Edinburgh Fringe. Tell me a bit about that.
Well, it was really, I mean, we didn't actually meet at the Fringe, but we kind of discovered each other through the Fringe. I used to go to the Fringe whenever I could find a place in Edinburgh to stay. And so I was going to the Fringe this one year, and I saw just an incredible play based on a Melville short story from the 19th century. And it was in a small theater up there, it was definitely Fringe.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing that I saw there. And it turns out that in the audience, possibly on the same day, was my wife
Right.
we were both from Boston. She was up there. She was visiting that. I mean, I just looked at it because I love great theater. She
Yeah.
was looking at it because her ex-husband, who she's friends with and everything, is a theater director and a playwright, and he had written the play. And we
Right.
both felt it was the best thing we saw at Edinburgh. So among other things, there were many other things. But
You know what's interesting about the Fringe for me? I love the fact that you can go up there, and yes, you might book a comedian that you really want to see, or
right.
a show you really want to go and see. The one that always gets me is that show you didn't expect to be good. It's that element where you go, I turn up at the Fringe box office and go, should we try that? Should we try that? Should we try that? And they're the ones that tend to be amazing. But yeah, no, the Fringe is an incredible place to be.
It is.
So yeah, it's good fun. And as you say, London is a great place. So for our listeners who don't know about you, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, that's a huge question and kind of hard to do. But where I'm known best, I think of what I'm known for. I'm the author of 6 books. 3 of them are on money, but mostly on our relationship to money. So it's the human side of money that I'm known for. I've trained advisors from 30 countries, thousands of advisors from 30 countries in in-depth training on how to listen better to their clients and how to find what really would inspire their clients to live the best life they're meant to live. So it's really about freedom. It's about listening. But I also I've written a book of poetry and photography, and I'm now producing 5 more books on poetry and photography. I've written a book on civilization, as you know, and I've written a book on mindfulness. So on mindfulness practice, I've been a mindfulness practitioner for 50 years and taught mindfulness for 35 years. So I'm really all over the place in terms of what I do, but I live a passionate life in nature, on a pond in Littleton, Massachusetts.
And when you're thinking about a subject for a new book, what is it that inspires you to pick a subject?
Yeah, I think the thing that has inspired me most is freedom.
Yeah,
and it's how I understand freedom. In any case, some people use it in different ways, but I think that Homo sapiens, human beings, we were not born to be enslaved by autocratic systems or anything like that. We were born to live freely. And so the question is, how can we maximize that freedom? And my experience is that the more freedom there is around me, the more other people are feeling free, the more joy and delight and kindness kindness and generosity
Yeah.
and wonderful things, innovations are happening. So my passion has been, how can I deliver that in a variety of ways? And some of it is in environmental, because my latest series of books are kind of related to the environment. Some of it's civilization wide. And the area that I'm most known for is in the financial advice area, because financial advisors are trying to do that, but they're trying to do it with money.
Sure.
And I just want them to be much better
More
listeners,
open-minded, right?
more
Yeah.
open-minded, and to be really there for the client, totally to serve the client. So that's it.
Just out of interest, what book are you most proud of?
Oh gosh. Probably this may surprise you, but my latest one. I mean, I think if I think of a legacy that I have, I think that most people think of my legacy as being in what's called life planning, which is the financial planning area. But I think of my legacy when I arrived here. You can see this is our driveway.
Right.
Okay, so that's going into our place, and it's under voltage.
I'm assuming
water.
it's a picture of your driveway.
It is
You're
a
not
picture.
just sitting in your drive.
Yeah, it is a picture. Yeah, that's right. So when I arrived here 30 years ago, and I took one look at the place, and I thought, this is paradise. I want to capture this. I want to live every moment in the weather of this place, in the experience of nature in this place. And I want to capture it every day with a poem and every day with a photograph. And so I've done that for 30 years. And now I'm putting them together so that every day of the year is it's like a book of hours, a book of sayings.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So you've got a poem for every day and a photo for every day of the year.
Every day. Yep, every day of the year.
Love it.
Right. Multiple of each of those, usually 2 or 3 of each.
Love it. And is that the next? Is that, as you said, that's the next 5 books that are going to be published over the next few years?
The first one's out, and you can subscribe to it for free. You can get it in your email on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And the other 4 are within a year of being complete. And the other 4 are spring, summer, winter, and fall. The first one is a weekly edition. The next are daily editions.
Yeah, no, that's really good. You know what's interesting? I know I said that we'd probably go off topic when I emailed you about this, because we normally do in these things. I'm reading a really good book at the minute called The Daily Stoic, right? So it's full of Stoic philosophy, but the idea of the book is you only read a page a day.
Yeah.
And it's not a natural way of consuming a book.
Yeah.
And it takes a bit of mindfulness and discipline to say, I'm going to stop after a page. But having that daily practice of just sitting and reading the page is really interesting. I do it in the morning. It's
absolutely
it's a really useful thing to do. Yeah, it's really good. Talk to me about, because I know that the sort of the work side is the Kinder Institute, and you do a lot of that. I know you do a lot sort of more broadly, but tell me about the work you do at the Kinder Institute.
Yeah, we've trained, I think, 4,000 advisors in 30 countries, and but our strongest base is in the U.S. and then in the U.K. and then in the Netherlands, and but we've got people all over the world. And and they're in-depth trainings, 2-day trainings, 5-day trainings, and then a 6-month mentorship. And those trainings are training people in how to listen to their clients, so that there's a more connection, there's more possibility of something profound, so that the clients feel that they've got a great friend who's also really accomplished in the financial world, but who's really there for them, and whose priority is not getting paid money for their stocks and bonds, their guilt, whatever you call it in the UK.
Adding genuine value to their lives.
But they're there. This is a person that they would, in a crisis, they'd call, because they know they would be listened to. And cared for, empathized with in a moment, or the longings, the inspirations would be caught by the advisor and say, that sounds like what you really want to do. And we train them to listen in ways that nobody has ever listened to clients before in the financial world. So it's been wonderful. And then we give them the designation. It's a life planning designation. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know a couple of people who've done the sort of both
Yeah.
2 day and 5 day course.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. I know Tina Weeks is a
of
massive
course.
advocate of yours, but a friend of mine, Sam Wybrow, did
Oh,
the 2 day and
Sam,
5 day.
yeah. Oh, I go back.
Sam was interesting because he mentioned the profound effect it had on his life
Yes.
before he started using it with clients. Do you find that happens quite a lot with the advisors that go through the process?
Yeah, what happens, the way we train, most people think of trainings as very intellectual and academic. We don't train that way. We train experientially.
Yeah.
So we give them the experience of listening to their clients. But the only way you can do that is by having someone else
listen to them.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they get life planned while they're practicing life planning someone else. So everybody, when they come out of that 5-day course in particular, and now it's 4-day on Zoom, but out of that 5-day course, the Evoke course, they are on fire to live the best life they can live. And they hadn't been thinking of that before.
Yeah.
And they've been thinking, oh, it's 2 years away or 5 years away or when I retire. And now they're going, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to live that way now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they've been trained how to really listen to their clients. So it's inside out, the training, and it's a wonderful experience. It's inspiring.
It's interesting. There's a friend of mine, a guy called Patrick Luong, who, funny enough, used to work with Ruth Sturkey. Many moons ago now, but he went through a bit of a life planning process, and part of his life plan is he didn't want to be a financial planner anymore. And the reason we knew him is because we knew him through the financial planning community, but then he joined the charity sector, and he's been a massive advocate of the work we do here at the Kindness Project. And the funny thing was, during lockdown, we'd sort of sent a couple of emails and stood in touch, but I hadn't seen him for ages. And I ran the London Marathon last year, George, in October. So thank you. So I actually, the first time I saw Patrick face to face in about 2.5 years was at Canary Wharf, when I'd done 19 miles running a marathon. And I was so emotional, and I don't know whether I should have done this on the back end of COVID. I gave him a big hug as I ran past, and he must have enjoyed it because he was waiting for a hug at 21 miles as well. So I got 2 hugs from Patrick. But do you find, there was a question somewhere there, do you find that actually that life planning process can facilitate somebody potentially turning around and saying, I've got my ladder up the wrong wall?
Absolutely. And I mean, one of the companies we worked with was in the Netherlands, and it was ING, a big insurance company. And the guy who ran it at the time was a little kind of, he seemed very professorial and more like a teacher in some way, and a lovely guy, a warm guy, great sense of humor. And I gave this 5-day training, and one of the guys, and we don't let more than 12 or 14 people into it. So it's a very small training. The CEO comes on the last day, and he hears that this one guy has decided he wants to play the guitar instead and is going to leave the firm. And so he corners me, the CEO does, and he says, George, I hear Jared over there is going to be leaving the firm to play guitar. And then he burst out laughing, and he said, I want my people to be happy. And if that's happy, I am so thrilled. And he just believed in his community. And so we built quite a culture out of that. So yes, there is this enormous, life planning's infectious because you're so excited about your life that you kind of spread that joy and that enthusiasm around.
And I think life and business should be about people. It's people first, isn't it? That's the important thing.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I was really fascinated to ask you, and it's about one ebook, The 7 Stages of Money Maturity, particularly pertinent for what we're talking about today in terms of kindness. tell me a little bit about how Aloha, using money for kindness, works in your world and from your perspective.
Well, it's actually different from what you might think.
Okay.
The book Seven Stages of Money Maturity is about going through a hero's journey, becoming more adult in a way, becoming stronger with our hearts, with our heads, with the energy of our body, working through the dilemmas that we face that make us act out in ways, be reactive and all that. So it's really a psychology of money, and it leads to two states at the end. One of them is visionary, and that I think is very related to what you guys are talking about in the Kindness Project. It's about actually reaching out and doing amazing things in your community. It could be very small, it could be very large. Aloha is a little different from what you might think, because aloha is the passing of a blessing from one person to another, regardless of economic difference.
Yeah.
So it's like you're taken by surprise. Maybe it was someone just sleeping on the street in London, does something to you that touches your heart, where you're blown away that there's so much kindness from them to you. You don't know them, you're totally different walks of life, all that kind of thing. And you go, wow, that's amazing. And it changes your life. So it's those random acts of kindness, they're called sometimes, right? And you see that a lot. So it's more that than it is necessarily using your money.
Financial,
But it could be one of the sweetest ones that I tell the story of this person who, you know how you can, I don't know if this even exists anymore, but you'd get newspapers, you'd put some coins in a newspaper thing and you pull a newspaper out. And there was a person who...
It's that unexpected thing, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. This person saw a little 10-year-old girl always search and see if there were any coins left in there. And he worked across the street and in a convenience store. And when she was coming home from school, every day before she came home, he'd go over and he'd put a little coin in that machine for her. And she didn't discover that until 20 years later.
She didn't know who it was.
She didn't have. No, she thought she was getting it because the machine didn't work. But it turns out that he'd been doing it all these, for her child. And so So anyway, it's these little acts of kindness you don't even necessarily know about them.
But it's just, I mean, we did the person who springs to mind about that is a lady called Bernadette Russell, who's a fellow Londoner. She lives south of the river, though, doesn't she? So a little bit different down there. But we loved her story because she, post the London riots, decided to perform one random act of kindness a day for a year.
Oh, cool.
Her book about how she did it was incredible. I'd definitely recommend it. Certainly recommend it. So, give me an example of how we can practically do more things that sort of align to a lower.
Well, I think I actually think that it comes naturally. The more that we've developed our strengths, our maturity as a human being. So I think that being intelligent, if we're talking about money, being intelligent around money and not acting out in a foolish way is helpful, actually.
Yeah.
I think that developing your ability to listen to other people is also, so that's developing the heart. Being able to listen and empathize with other people means that you'll be able to see more quickly and easily, that's what I need to do. Or wouldn't that be wonderful to do? And then the third thing, these are all in the 7 stages. The third stage of maturity is vigor, is just finding more vitality in your life. And the best way to do that is to live your life plan, to live who you're meant to be.
Yeah.
And it may sound like it's doing all this stuff for yourself, but all those things are developing you so that you're more there when a possible random act of kindness
opportunity to do
Exactly.
good.
Yeah.
And that element of authenticity is
Yeah.
so important, isn't it?
So
Because I agree with you. You know, if you're not living your life in the way you want to do it,
Yeah.
and to a certain extent pretending to be something you're not, then that has an impact on your life, doesn't it? In terms of the energy you bring to it.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That was the first part of the interview with George. There will be more certainly next week with George. Please tune in because there will be a lot more insight. As we're doing this week, for some bizarre reason, we are talking about what Charlotte's grateful for. So what else are you grateful for?
What else am I grateful for? Stories.
Stories? What? Help us understand what you mean by that. Why stories?
Like, books, newspaper articles. Like, okay, sometimes they're negative, but they also have this sense of, like, in fiction you get this sense of otherworldliness and, like,
You're grateful that stories exist.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
quite like that, Russ.
Mhm.
Stories.
Yeah.
Very good. And on that note, it's your turn to.
Tis the end of another podcast, but the end is never truly the end because the end is always something. The end is always the beginning of something entirely new.
Which
and I
is?
need a new tongue apparently. And so it's last week's question of the podcast. This week answered by you guys.
You guys. Definitely you guys, I guess. And last week's question of the podcast was amazingly popular. It was probably one of our most popular ones, right? It was, what is the greatest movie soundtrack ever? And we had a bunch. So I'll let Charlotte start with Steve Dan.
Steve Dan said Saturday Night Fever and Grease, also the full Monty.
Good choices.
Sam Chilton said Batman Forever soundtrack. Movie maybe have been dodgy, but soundtrack is amazing. Still listening to it now.
I can't remember whether the Batman Forever soundtrack was the one with Prince or not. I have to have a look, but I think the original might have been Prince. But yeah.
Also, Shooting Fish is genius. A lot of time for Curious George. Oh, I did like the Curious George.
Well, that's how this conversation started because I'm a great fan of the Curious George soundtrack. Haley Ball said the Lost Boys. Simon Paul said Kevin and Perry Go Large. Mark Newman said there's no argument. It's simply Top Gun.
John Cook said Trainspotting. Stacey Keane said gotta be Rock of the Ages for me. Christy Mike said Top Gun. Carolyn Thompson said Grease and Dirty Dancing. Patrick Floyd said Get Carter, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, A Clockwork Orange, in that order.
Tracy Kiernan said Rocky. Dave Forsyth said Top Gun, Rocky, Dirty Dancing, Good Morning Vietnam, Footloose. There's too many good soundtracks. But I'll tell you what's interesting. You can like the like for soundtracks. It's like a bit of a definer of age, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You can sort of tell what sort of age range somebody is in. Because if you like me, you like 80s soundtrack. It's likely you're in your in your 40s. Karina Murray had a genius one, The Muppets Most Wanted.
Oh.
Now that is a. Why did you go old? Right, tell us why you love The Muppets Most Wanted.
It's one song in particular, and I can't remember what the name of it is, where it's the fake Kermit and what's his
Ricky
name?
Gervais.
Ricky Gervais.
I'm number one. You're number two.
We're criminals at large, but I'm much larger than you.
You know what I love? The Muppets Most Wanted soundtrack is written by possibly one of the best comedy, maybe not the best, but one of the best comedy songwriters of the last 30 years. The guy out of Flight of the Conchords. It is absolutely genius. If you like a laugh and you want to give a little bit to charity, just Google "Feel Inside" by Flight of the Conchords, because that is an amazing charity single, probably my favourite charity single. Nicola Taylor said the Top Gun soundtrack. Glenn May said The Wall or City of Angels. Mike Christie said Moana, Encanto. Who doesn't know about Bruno?
Oh, I didn't.
We all
even
know
see
about
those
Bruno,
options.
but we don't talk about Bruno. Sharon Hirsch said Dirty Dancing. Chris Haycock said Solaris and Mary Poppins.
Deborah Myers says Shrek 2.
McVicker.
I can't read it. It's too far away from my
The Long
face.
Good Friday.
And Quadrophenia. Toby Acton said The Lost Boys. Louise McNamee said The Lost Boys. Johnny Piper said the original Disney Jungle.
That's a good shout. Loads of the original Disney Jungle Book. Loads of great songs on that.
Matthew Strybig said Amadeus. Steve Chilton said split between Guardians of the Galaxy or Trainspotting. Both epic collections of tracks.
Tara Appleton said Lion King for me. I had the tape when I was young and knew every song word for word.
Gemma Playford said Mary Poppins. Tara Higgins said Trainspotting. Alice Joy said About a Boy. Marco Halloran said I like Bodyguard.
I don't know if he just likes the Bodyguard or he likes the soundtrack to the Bodyguard.
Francis Barrett said The Boat That Rocks.
Chris Budd said the Magnificent Seven. I regularly put it on when I'm writing. Steve Buttercase said, if you mean the best collection of music soundtrack as opposed to original soundtrack, then Baby Driver. Now, can I just say, I've been listening to this in the car this week, and Baby Driver has an epic soundtrack. For original score, whilst I adore Elmer Bernstein's score for the Magnificent Seven, I'd go with Morricone's beautiful work for Once Upon a Time in America. Darren Cook agreed, Morricone full stop, anything he's done. Charlie Goodman, who loves on the podcast to give us a bit of a curveball, said Transformers the movie from 1986. It's got Stan Bush and Weird Al Yankovic and that heavy metal version of the soundtrack by Lion. I will die like Optimus Prime on this hill. Matt Warren said Top Gun, Rocky
Where
IV,
are you reading this?
Lost Boys, Trainspotting and Cars.
Oh, Ian Else said, I used to think Top Gun, but I think Baby Driver is better now. Nathan Jones said, I'm not saying this is the best, but I always find myself singing along to the Shrek soundtrack.
There is some absolute bangers on there. Well, I'm a believer. Right, Nathan Jones said Goodfellas as a notable mention, but purely from my 90s youth, the Above the Rim soundtrack. I've never heard of that before. Caroline Stewart said Guardians of the Galaxy, Reservoir Dogs, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? But I think Moana is the best soundtrack ever made. You're welcome.
Coco's not been mentioned once, and if we're talking about like that one song at the end of Coco, breaks your heart every time.
Breaks your heart every time. Claire said, off the top of my head, Out of Sight, Baby Driver, Pulp Fiction, and About a Boy. Neil Page said,
I have so many, but we'll opt for Lord of the Rings.
anything by Hans Zimmer, Thomas Newman.
Rachel Portman, or
I'll leave that one to you. Elan Eshekri works for me. By the way, the soundtracks written for games are as good as movies.
yes. Oh my God,
The
game
official
soundtracks.
soundtracks for Halo and Assassin's Creed are incredible.
I sometimes will listen to the Ace Attorney soundtrack when I'm
Yeah, I mean, gaming soundtracks now are getting as good, if not better, than movie soundtracks. And I think that's been the case for a number of years. My own personal favourites, currently the God of War soundtrack is brilliant, but also Persona 5.
Persona 5.
Take a look at the Persona 5 soundtrack.
Ace Attorney, any Ace Attorney. The old ones are like very, like, you know, how you'd expect 8-bit music to be. And then also Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch has a brilliant soundtrack.
There's your game soundtracks as well done. Red Dead Redemption 2 is Chris Budd's favourite gaming soundtrack. Victor Sack says Pulp Fiction. Dave Brooks said Flash Gordon, Moon, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Fistful of Dollars and Blade Runner. But Blade Runner remains my go-to, and I love Dune as an album. You know what nobody's mentioned? I don't know if this counts as a movie album or not. It probably doesn't. War of the Worlds. There's an album that came out, and I can't remember the guy's name, but effectively it was the musical with the audio book of War of the Worlds, all connected. And I don't think they made it into a movie, but it's like a rock opera style thing. It's amazing. Tony Slimming said Last of the Mohicans. Harry Webster said Bad Times at the El Royale. Brilliant Motown combination. Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and Grosse Point Blank. Eve Keith agreed. Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. Truth About Money said Highlander. Keith LMFA said Dirty Dancing. Tamsin said The Great Showman, The Jungle Book, Lost Boys, Dirty Dancing and Peter's Friends. John Gwinnett said Some Kind of Wonderful. John Glover said Gladiator or maybe Deer Hunter. And then I've lost my show notes. Sebastian said Django or Sing 2. Paul Stock said Lost Boys, closely followed by Train Spotting. Martha Lawton said 10 Things I Hate About You. And then Catherine Knowles said Dirty Dancing. So that was, that was engaging, wasn't it? The old movie soundtrack one. We like that one. And on that note, friends, that is the end of another podcast. I've been Grizz Dames.
I've been Charlotte Dames
I've
for
been
about
Russell Dames.
18 years.
And we'll see you next time on the Kindness Project.
And I'm also Sophie.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.